Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of November 9th, 2014. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. This is such an important week. I mean, if ever there was a week that had, make or break, do or understand what you are not meant to do written all over it, this would be it. And it is going to be one of those weeks that I think is going to stand out in the minds of a lot of people out there, especially when they look back over the course of this year. And for some people, really, if they look back over the course of the last several years, November is going to be one of those times that really stands out because of what changes and because of, in some cases, some very dramatic changes. Now, first and foremost, before I start to describe what is happening in the sky, I do want to say that there's a lot of value now in watching your karma. Okay, I got to say this because there's going to be temptation really all around. I think a lot of people are going to be feeling this temptation to say, this isn't working and I am ripping off this band-aid. I am burning this bridge. I am walking away. Now, as much as I've heard romanticizing of burning bridges, I can say, and I've seen this again and again, that there is a way to have your closure. There is a way to bring an end to what you understand is no longer a part of your path, but do it in a way that allows you to create something better rather than set up a situation where if that were to come back to you, if somebody else were to do the same to you, if somebody else were to just slam a door shut without explaining why, it probably wouldn't feel very good. So just be mindful of your karma. But at the end of the day, of course, once you see the truth, once you know what it is that you're meant to do, and once you know who is not meant to be part of that with you or what situation really is not meant to go any further, there's not going to be a lot of impetus or motivation to hang on any longer than need be. So for some people, there are going to be some very dramatic endings. If you find yourself one of those people where all of a sudden you're walking a path and someone else decides to get off of it, or a path that you've been walking seems to come to an abrupt end, there is a very, very strong case to be made that you are being led in a much, much better direction. And I think that that inspiration, that faith, if you will, that regardless of what is ending now, ultimately is leading you in a good direction, is going to be made very clear to you. So there are several things that are taking place this week that I think are going to or are suggesting a really important week for a lot of us. The Sun and Venus continue to travel quite closely in the sky. And so both of these planets over the course of this week will be speaking with Jupiter in a type of conversations that astrologers call a square. So this is a conversation of tension, yes. But when I see the Sun and Venus speaking in this type of conversation with Jupiter, to me it suggests over-optimism, really is what it comes down to. Now, I don't think over-optimism necessarily is such a bad thing, but there can be sort of an exaggerated sense in the air right now. However, what is also happening is that both Venus and the Sun are going to be meeting Saturn in the sky. They do this about once a year. This week, Venus will perfect this meeting, and next week the Sun will perfect this meeting. And I'll remind you of this next week as well. But because these planets are traveling so closely together, there is value in considering these energies sort of working with each other. And certainly this is going to be an energy that we're feeling now, all of us in some way. So the Sun and Venus meeting Saturn. So the Sun meeting Saturn is reality check, is, whoa, okay, that is done. I see clearly why that is done, and I'm ready to let that go. There's an element of endings there. There's an element of the truth, whether it's a bitter pill or not. And there's an element there also of ending, very strong endings to that. Where it comes to the Sun, it really has to do with, there's a more conscious process, but it does have to do with the will. It does have to do with an understanding of who you really are and what is no longer a part of your path. With Venus meeting Saturn, it has to do with love or pleasure or money. So the archetype of the goddess of love, really, she's coming to understand what really is not part of your romantic or financial or our individual paths in romance or finances, what is no longer a part of that. And so there's an element there of recognizing the truth of the situation, recognizing and being honest with yourself about where you are in love and money, and making a choice from that place. So we've got all this over-optimism happening. And at the same time, we've got this reality check energy happening very strongly. And so it does suggest that if we get a little bit too carried away, the universe is going to make us get really grounded really fast. And if we overindulge a little bit too much, the universe is going to show us the consequences of that very, very quickly as well. When I look at something like this, I'm going to be really honest with you. One of the first images that came up, now, it depends, of course, on your unique birth chart, but I mean, this is sort of like an image of not realizing that you're pushing the limit on your credit card, and then, you know, sort of going on a bit of a spree and then having a sort of a sale rejected. And so you want to be mindful of that kind of thing, this over optimism with love or money, and then being grounded. This is also, you know, you thinking that you're sort of in this amazing, in a relationship, and then all of a sudden being reminded, well, actually you've only been dating this person for a month or two. And maybe it isn't yet a 10-year relationship. Not meaning that it won't be, but this is really a reality check around that. And then you add to that the sun, and the sun is really about clarity also. It's about you having to be really honest with yourself about where you are and who you are as well. So what does it say about you that you haven't been mindful of your credit card limits? What does it say about you that you haven't been mindful of trusting the process in a relationship instead of getting carried away in what it is that you think that you want and projecting all of that onto another person? So these are some lessons that could be likely for some of us out there. But what we also have happening, which really just adds so much intensity and sort of this very powerful insight to what is taking place this week, is the fact that we have Mars and Pluto meeting in the sky. Now, this happens once every 2 years. I spoke about this for just about every sign. For most signs out there, I would have touched on this because it really is that important a time. And it does tend to suggest a time of a major turning point for a lot of us. It tends to suggest a time when we look at what is done, what has served its purpose. So Saturn already is a planet of limits, and it is associated with endings as well. You add to that Pluto and Mars, both planets speaking to endings, meeting, and it becomes a very powerful time, and a time of just sheer, in fact, searing honesty with ourselves and allowing, almost like whether it's a shedding of dead skin, whether it's leaving behind what we no longer need, whether it's letting go of one situation, being honest with yourself, and as a result of that honesty, understanding what needs to now transform. All of that is on offer now. So that alone, Mars and Pluto meeting in the sky alone, would suggest a really consequential week. However, we've also got the Sun and Venus dancing with Jupiter and meeting Saturn as well. Again, the Sun will be exact in its meeting, what astrologers call a conjunction, next week. However, this is energy that's going to be felt throughout this week as well. So some of the ending lessons that come up for us, understanding what served its purpose, those lessons that come up for us are going to continue into next week. However, certainly very much in the air now. So as the week starts, be mindful of where you might be feeling very over optimistic, and allow yourself to have more information come in. But it does look like changes are being made all around, and the changes that do come about seem to ultimately lead us in a direction that is a lot more honest. And so whatever it is that ends, if somebody wants to leave, let them leave. If you feel inspired to leave, you're going to have to trust that and leave. Whether it's a situation, whether it's a friendship or relationship. Because this week, more than others, I mean, I think that the soul always knows what it is that you need in your life and what you don't, where your learning is and where it isn't. But this week, for each of us in our own way, our spirit is going to be speaking volumes and saying, yes, or saying no as to what it is that is part of our path. Thankfully, we've got a lot of inspiration happening, faith happening as well. And mainly I say that because right in the middle of the week, Mercury will be speaking in harmony with Neptune. So on the 11th of November, Mercury will end shadow. So I promised to tell you guys that, and that's the date, November 11th, depending on where you are, a little bit of fluctuation in exact times, but you can be assured that if you are connected to me on social media, the exact moment that Mercury is out of shadow, I will announce it across social media. And so when that comes up on your notifications, on your page, you know, okay, Mercury's now out of shadow. To the minute, I will let you guys know. But Mercury will leave shadow. And so this is where I think officially the holiday shopping season and getting good results out of that can initiate for me and for others out there as well. But what's happening right at the same time is this very harmonious conversation between Neptune and Mercury, which tells me not only that we are going to be inspired to stay connected to faith as a result, or through these changes rather, but also we will have a very inspired interpretation of the recent Mercury retrograde phase. So ever since September, Mercury's been in shadow. In October, Mercury was retrograde. Now Mercury finally leaves shadow, and it's all systems ahead. And I think that it's almost like as a result of the process we've been going through, we are granted some sort of insight. Even for some people out there, some sort of gift or blessing comes about as a result of all the questions and all the answers that we've been brave enough to face. If that wasn't all, we've got all these wonderful changes happening. And if that wasn't all, when Mars, and I should be sure to mention this, when Mars and Pluto meet in the sky, Mars will then move on and have a conversation, sort of activate the square between Pluto and Uranus. So Mars will move on and speak with Uranus as well, bringing about sudden turnarounds and sudden changes. So to me, as I look at this again, this is all about acknowledging what has ended, what has served its purpose, what you're ready to move on from. This is all about being honest with yourself and saying no. This is all about being honest with yourself and ripping off Band-Aids. Now, again, you want to do this in a way that helps you be honest with yourself, but also keeps your karma clean. Do this in a way where you feel that you've done right by yourself primarily, but also by another person as well, or a situation as well. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when that spirit speaks, and there's just so many symbols, Mars and Pluto, Mars and Uranus, Venus, Sun and Saturn, all these symbols speaking so strongly to the spirit knowing what direction it needs to go in. And it certainly is up to us as individuals, a part of our own spiritual learning, to trust that and to implement those changes in a way that ultimately is as kind and loving as is possible. Please keep your astrology questions coming. I do appreciate that. Some new things are going to launch a little further down the road, further towards the end of this year and into next. And so I do appreciate your more technical questions. Keep them coming. I keep making FAQ videos as well, so you'll see more of them coming up. If you would like me to answer some questions that are a little bit more personal based on your unique situation, based on your unique birth chart, consider a personalized horoscope where I can do just that. I do hope, of course, that with these videos, you gain something, that in some way these videos provide you with an omen that bring inspiration, bring clarity, and bring hope into your life. And that is always, always my intention, that these videos in some way affirm that the universe is wise and loving, because that is truly what I believe, and what I believe is my mission, to affirm that in the world. And I'm truly so grateful that you're here to celebrate your lives, to celebrate the sky, and to celebrate this, what I believe is spiritual truth, that the universe is wise and loving, to celebrate that with me. So how all the amazing astrological happenings this week are speaking to you and your sign are coming up right now. Hello, fabulous Aries. This week we have your ruling planet Mars meeting Pluto in the sky. This happens once every 2 years, and immediately Your ruling planet Mars will speak to Uranus as well. This is such an important time for you, and it does suggest a new clarity and a new understanding as to your direction. What direction are you headed in? What is it that really matters to you, and how is it that you understand your life purpose? What are you here for? What goals are worthy of achieving? This suggests a major turning point for you. Now, for some of you, I do think that this is going to represent, in terms of a turning point, you add to this the fact that we've got Venus and the Sun meeting Saturn in a part of the sky that has to do with change and endings, mostly conscious endings, understanding what needs to transform. And also the part of the sky that has to do with the life, death, rebirth cycle. I do think that for a lot of people out there of your sign, this week is going to represent an understanding of what career path you have no longer use for, really, what it is that you have done what you were supposed to do and now are ready to move on in another direction and towards something or someone else. There is an understanding with this energy as to where it is that you've achieved something you can be proud of, where it is that you're now ready for the next adventure, but also on a deeper level, who you no longer are. Maybe the things that you once wanted, the things you thought were worth achieving, now you realize, not so much, not really what you're going for anymore. So there's an element here of you being very honest with yourself, and there's an element here of you understanding much more deeply of what it is that you are meant to do. And as that clarity sets in, as that new understanding sets in, so too does a whole other path reveal itself to you. Now, for some of you, this is not going to be the easiest process or the most comfortable process, but I do think that if you embrace it very quickly, you're going to see the advantages, and very quickly you are going to see how what is revealing itself to you, though it may not be completely clear, and you might only feel what that could be on a very intuitive level, what is revealing itself to you slowly but surely in its own time is actually very, very inspiring. Hello, fabulous Taurus. This week we have got this power configuration taking place with Mars and Pluto. And this is happening in a part of the sky for you that has to do with vision. You add to this, your ruling planet Venus will be meeting Saturn in your opposite sign that has to do with relationships and relating. You put these together and it does suggest a significant change or alteration in the dynamic you have in a one-on-one relationship. So there's going to be a need for you, of course, to communicate. It does look like there might be sort of something that either you want to do or something you're planning to do that might end up being more expansive than you realized. And so there can be an element here of maybe a partner asking something of you that is more than you're able to do in the time frame that is being asked for. And it could be business. Okay, so it could be a business arrangement where you realize you need more time to do what you're hoping to do. But it could also be romantic as well, where a partner may have some sort of inflated, or it might be you that has sort of inflated expectations that might not necessarily be very realistic as to what your partner is capable of doing. So this is a time when you want to watch what it is that you truly desire to do, and watch what it is that you believe you can effectively contribute and have realistic time frames. That's really what it's going to come down to. Be honest with your partner, romantic or business, as to how much you can do and in what span of time, and where it is that you think you're going to need more time, especially. That's something that you're going to want to really be mindful of. If you can communicate these things clearly, then you are going to find that you have enough space to nurture your own vision for what it is that you desire to do with your life and your time. You'll have enough space to do that. And at the same time, you will also have the space to effectively be part of a partnership that seems to be very strong and that seems to be going and continues to go in a very good direction. Hello, fabulous Gemini. Well, this week your ruling planet, Mercury, will end shadow. So this is very exciting. In the middle of the week, will end shadow. And so this allows you to feel that you are done with certain things that have been cropping up since September and now can move forward with a lot more strength, a lot more clarity, and a lot more understanding as well as to who you are and what now you most desire to implement. Now, there is still a lot of sort of, as I spoke about in the intro, a lot of energy of change, sort of make or break kind of energy, a lot of being honest with yourself about what's working and what isn't kind of energy in the air. So let that spur your next understanding, your next moments. And as I spoke of in the intro as well, this whole idea of us being blessed, feeling blessed for the whole Mercury shadow, retrograde, and shadow period that we've been engaged in since September, well, you are going to feel that magnified. So while most of us are going to feel like they got something good out of all the questions and considerations, you are going to be one of those people where it really reaches right into the heart of you, where you say, yeah, I'm really, really glad I went through that. I'm really glad for that confusion because it led to a clarity that I very much needed. That's what I actually see you saying to yourself in the middle of the week. And it is from that space of spirit that you're then able to make a very important decision as to what it is that you're actually going to be moving towards and what you're going to be leaving behind. Now, as I've been speaking about to you in the weeklies and the monthly horoscopes as well, there's been a strong sort of romance element to what's been taking place with this Mercury retrograde since September. And I do think that this is going to be the time when you understand what all that was about. What was all that about? Why was all that coming up? And this is going to allow you to say, okay, who's going to walk with you in the future, romantically and otherwise, and who no longer is meant to as well. And so there's a very deep element of transformation, of self-honesty, but also understanding that all of this learning truly has been a privilege and will continue to be so. Hello, fabulous Cancer. This week we have got a meeting of Mars and Pluto in your opposite sign, which has to do with partnership. Now, I spoke about this in the monthly horoscopes for you as well. It is such an important week for you where it comes to relating, where it comes to who you're aligning yourself with in business and in love. So I don't see this as hugely consequential, although rather I should pull back because you still do have Saturn, the Sun and Venus meeting Saturn in a part of the sky that has to do with romance and dating. And then you've got Mars and Pluto meeting in a part of the sky that has to do with really partnership. And so whether that is a romantic partnership, whether that's a business partnership, you put these together and it just suggests a lot of being really honest with yourself about who's in your life, who's not, why that's the case, and what it is that needs to happen for you to experience more of what you really want in love and from the people you align yourself with in terms of partnership. Where it is that you have hung on to something where you know it's outserved its purpose, or anything that even resembles the superfluous or the superficial, this is a time when you say, whoa, okay, I've done with that. Thank you very much, universe, but I'm ready to move into a new direction. For some of us, or for some of you rather, some Cancerians out there, all of us in somewhere are going to be asked to be very brave. But for you in particular, I do think, considering the position of what's happening here, there is going to be an element here of you being searingly honest with yourself. And for some of you even, I'm going to be really honest with you, you know, I very much believe in a positive interpretation. This is ultimately about self-honesty. But if there's been any manipulation, if there's been any betrayal, this could be a time when that comes out. And so that could be your own. If you've been doing something where karmically, you know, you haven't been completely on the up and up, or in terms of another person and what may be happening there, because ultimately this is about you being honest with yourself about who it is that you're aligning yourself with, what type of dynamics you're getting yourself into, and whether or not it works for you. And from that place of honesty, really, this is a week that can really lead you in a direction where you really feel a sense of freedom and empowerment as a result of what comes to light now. Stay focused on that. And stay focused on the fact that there is a lot of hope on offer. And there's also a lot of inspiration on offer as well. With just a little bit of faith, you are certainly going to be finding yourself moving towards greater and greater love as part of the mystery of facing some very deep truths, mostly about yourself. Hello, fabulous Leo. This week we have your ruling luminary, the sun, speaking with Jupiter, but also speaking with Saturn. So meeting Saturn, rather. So Jupiter in your sign is going to be speaking with your ruling planet. This speaks to, I talked about in the intro, over-optimism. This becomes magnified for you many, many times over. There's certainly an element here of overconfidence and maybe sort of, I think about this idea of overinflation of expectations as well, overdoing it even. And then we've got the Sun and Saturn meeting, which is about being honest. And so if you have been like sort of really getting caught up in the clouds, this could be a moment where you're really brought down to earth. And if you have been one of those people that maybe has a pretty good balanced perspective, then this actually can be a really good time. And this can be a time when you're seeing things as they are, you're being honest with yourself, you're getting a perspective that you have known is coming for a while, but now with this perspective, you're able to make tangible progress. So there is going to be an element here of taking honest stock. Now, for a lot of you out there, this is actually going to come in the realm of home. So, you know, I'm reminded as I look at this, if I may say, I'm reminded of way back in the day. I remember many years ago watching an episode of Oprah, because I did grow up watching Oprah. And I remember in this episode, there was a woman and she was there with her husband and she insisted on buying this home. And at that time, this home was valued at $1 million. And really, they had to break it down for her and said, look, if you want this home, this is how much it's going to cost you. And this is how much the two of you are actually earning right now. Like, this is what your mortgage is going to be. And this woman sort of went, oh, wow, I hadn't considered that. She'd just been pressing and pushing for months and months, if not over a year, saying that she wanted this new home. She wanted this home without considering what the reality of the situation is of where she is now, what the ultimate cost would be. And so I do think that there might be, for some of you out there, because of the connection to home that is being spoken to with this sky, if you have wanted to move, if you have wanted to make changes, this is a time when you're sort of getting a really balanced perspective. What is that actually going to entail? What is it actually going to ask? Do you actually have enough for a down payment? Do you need to collect more? The changes you're hoping to make, have you been sort of thinking that they're going to be this magic answer when actually the answer is a lot closer and a lot more reasonable as well? I really believe, one thing I certainly believe very strongly within me is that anything a human being wants, we can have. We have that power to manifest amazing things through dedication and through having a very clear vision and moving ourselves forward in honesty. And real magic starts to happen when we align ourselves with a higher will to manifest something that perhaps might be even better. And so this is your opportunity to say to yourself, okay, I want to manifest this. Where am I now? And how can I bring myself into alignment with something higher? It is that sort of understanding, those three factors that need to be adjusted. So if you've gone a little bit overboard on one part of that equation, you will be brought back to center, because ultimately there's a fine balance between those three factors. And once you find that balance, which the universe is going to try to help you to do this week, then whatever it is that you desire becomes that much more easier for you. But it is about first taking honest stock about where you are, what it is that you really want on a most fundamental level. And then with that clarity, finding yourself moving in that direction, in a much more empowered direction at that. Hello, fabulous Virgo. This week we have your ruling planet leaving shadow, which should be very welcome for you. You are going to certainly feel that shift more than others. You add to this the fact that your ruling planet will be speaking in harmony with your with Neptune in your opposite sign. Now, one thing I didn't mention in the introduction, I will talk about more next week, is the fact that by the time we get to the end of the week, really, Neptune this week is sort of slowing down to a crawl. Next week, standing still in the sky and will go direct. So I spoke about this in your monthly horoscope, so you may want to watch that again, especially in your love-focused horoscopes. This is such an important time for you, given the position of Neptune. So you're going to start feeling this energy this week with Neptune slowing down to what we call virtually stationary, slowing down to appear to be standing still. So as Neptune does this, and you add to this your ruling planet speaking in harmony with Neptune, just as your ruling planet has left shadow, you put these together and it does suggest that there's an element here of you becoming that much more aware of where you actually have had it really good in love, who has actually been there, who's actually been pretty good. And what I am seeing is those of you who are not currently in relationship, you're going to be taking stock of what was and saying, you know, wow, I've actually been blessed with a lot of really great people in my life who came along to teach me something about love. So thank you for them. Those of you who are in an established bond, this is you having a moment that really helps you to understand that there is something special here. Even when your partner seems frustrating, even when it feels difficult, there is something very special here. And I think that for some of you even, there might be an element here where it's almost like your partner carries a dream in some form, a dream come true in their hands. And so it's like there's something that you very much want, and a partner is part of facilitating that. Now, there is the whole thing about Saturn and the Sun and Venus meeting. So even though the Sun and Saturn will perfect their meeting next week, still this is energy, as I spoke about in the intro, that's going to be really important. You put all this together and it does suggest a need to balance out the dream that you may have and the dream that a partner really wants to participate in with you, facilitate for you, and the reality of your circumstances today, to find that perfect balance between all of that. And if you can do that, you certainly can find yourself moving in a direction where you make tangible at least one dream that you very much want. Hello, fabulous Libra. This week we have your ruling planet Venus meeting Saturn in the sky, and this has reality check written all over it, especially for you. What is it that really matters to you, and what do you think you're really worth? And this becomes especially true given the position of Saturn and Venus right now. And so when I look at this playing out, this can suggest financial changes, and the financial changes can be ones that empower you very much, but ultimately they're based on some very solid understanding of what you have already done. Now, I do think for some Libras out there, there may be a little bit of an overreach, especially early in the week. And so if you're going for some kind of promotion, but you maybe part of you doesn't really want it, you think you should be going for it, or maybe it is an overreach. Maybe it is something that actually the reality of your situation hasn't really prepared you for that yet. Then you're going to know. The universe is going to make sure that you're very clear, that you're very honest, that circumstances are very clear, that what you are going for is or is not in alignment with what you have already demonstrated. Now, that doesn't mean that if you want something, you shouldn't go for it, especially if what you want is more money. I do believe very much that there is a lot of value in looking at what you believe is the value of what you're giving and approaching the world from that place, saying, you know, what I give has a high amount of value and I believe that that should be reciprocated. But is that true? That's another thing. Is the universe responding to that? Is there something else that you'd rather be doing that you know ultimately expresses a higher level of self-worth, a higher sense of fulfillment, a higher sense of connection to what it is that you know you can do well, and finding a way to make that profitable? Are you doing something that is a unique expression of you or not? And if you are not, why is that? Now, ultimately, I do think that everything that we do, no matter what it is, I'm very much of the belief that just about any role that you take in this world has spirit infused in it, can be spiritual. It is about your approach. It is about how you're interacting with the people around you as well, and how you're actually understanding what it is that you're doing. All of these are going to be questions. All of these are going to be considerations that come up for you. How is it that you are honoring the work in front of you now? Where is it that your expectations are a little bit inflated compared to what you've already demonstrated? And where it is that you're ready to make changes that ultimately will lead you in a more profitable direction. For some of you, I do think this week is going to represent a really dramatic, actually, change in some respects. So for some of you out there, I do think that there's going to be okay, I'm done with this job and walking away. That's for a small percentage of you out there. But for others of you, this process is going to be a lot more personal. And in that process and in those questions, you're going to come to understand that there is a path that ultimately will lead you to greater prosperity. But there's also a process, and it's going to be up to you to trust that process to get you there. Hello, fabulous Scorpio. Clearly, something has changed. Yes, something's changed. I'm not in the studio right now. So what happened, as occasionally does, because I'm a human being, and because I recorded this during a Mercury retrograde, or rather I recorded this week's horoscope during a Mercury retrograde, is that sometimes I realize that I missed a sign. And when that happens, or when something goes wrong with the video during a specific sign, to me, that is a sign from the universe that whatever it is that I meant to share with you, however it was that I said it before, is meant to be said differently now. And I'm meant to provide you with an omen that is slightly different as well. And so usually when this happens, I like to make it a little bit special, make it a little bit different. Sometimes a little bit more time. So I will be giving your sign just a little bit more time. But the other thing is, and one thing that I just thought was so incredible, like universe just is so funny sometimes at how poignant the universe can be. Right now I am at a beach, clearly in Cancun, and behind me, if you can see, there is a wedding taking place. And I thought that this was such a perfect symbol for what is happening with you, because what we have happening for you this week is Venus meeting Saturn in your sign. Venus meeting Saturn in your sign. Now, a wedding is like the symbol of this particular configuration. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be getting married. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is Venus is goddess of love. She also represents money and pleasure. And Saturn is about lifelong commitments. It's about being very honest with yourself about the long-term potentials, possibilities, and consequences of whatever it is that you're doing. And it is about setting a course that is responsible and that is as permanent as can possibly be, given that we are having a human experience. And so a wedding is one perfect example of that. You add to this the fact that Venus in your sign will be having a conversation, and the sun in your sign, conversation with Jupiter that speaks to over access. This tells me that wherever it is that you've been overdoing it, whether in love or money, you are about to get a reality check. But it isn't as simple as, oh, okay, this is what's really going on. It reaches right into the core of you, right into the heart of you, and shifts your identity. A moment of truth based on where you've been getting carried away helps you make some very grown-up and adult choices. You add to this the fact that your ancient ruling planet, your ancient ruling planet Mars and your modern ruling planet Pluto will be getting together in a part of the sky that has to do with messages, communications, and interactions. While you put that together, it's just as it sounds. You are going to be having some very key conversations now that help you to trigger what can be called an alchemical process, that help you to trigger an understanding of where it is that you have been carrying lead that is now ready to be turned into gold, meaning that wherever it is that you haven't been truly honest with yourself, wherever it is that you haven't wanted to look at the nitty gritty and recognize the beauty and the gift that is there, this week is going to offer you plenty of opportunity. There's lots of ultimatum energy in the air this week for all of us in one way or another. Lots of make or break, kind of do or do not do or decide that you're not ever going to do kind of energy in the air now. So this is a very consequential week for all of us. But for you, as I said, it reaches right into the heart of you, and conversations are going to play a key part in this. So let that touch a very deep place within you, because it really is your identity that's shifting now. And it comes as a result of honesty. If you've been getting carried away in a romantic alliance, now you're going to acknowledge whether or not there's some long-term potential here. If there's something you've been sweeping under the rug that's been bugging you, now it's no holding back anymore. You're going to be really honest with yourself. This is yes in love, yes in money, but also it has to do with you as well. Where is it maybe that you feel that you've gone off course a little bit in terms of those really hard-won values and truths that you know to be right for you? Wherever that is, you're about to accept the reality of where you are right now, see the beauty in it, and make a remarkable change as a result. Well, thank you so much for joining me at the beach. Scorpios, if you want to watch one of the signs, they're coming up right now. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. Hello, fabulous Sagittarius. This week, your ruling planet is having conversations with the Sun and Venus. And these conversations can be described as over-optimism, overinflation, hyper sort of expectations even as well. And all of this ultimately is designed to get you to be honest with yourself about what you believe the universe owes you, if you will. What is ultimately your vision for your life, and where it is that where you are right now is serving that what you believe it is that your vision is. So if there's been any way in which that you've been getting in your own way, you're going to start to be really honest with yourself in that regard. And where it is that you've been getting in your own way, where it's been hurting you financially, especially given all this activity we have happening with Mars and Pluto, and then Mars and Uranus in these key parts of your chart, well, it does look like all of these are going to be issues that come up for you. What is it that you really want? Where it is that you're getting in your own way, where it is that you're not being honest with yourself and clear with yourself. There's also an element here. I think this is only going to apply to a small percentage of you out there, but I just want you to be mindful of this because this situation does come up from time to time. And you know, as I've said before, and you know, those of you who watch me, I'm always going to be honest with you. I do believe everything is about empowering us. Everything in the universe is about empowering us. However, when I look at this conversation taking place, for those of you who might be just dating somebody, okay, or you meet somebody new, you're getting to know somebody, it does look like there is some type of connection between the person that you may be meeting or you're just getting to know right now and finances. And when I see something like this, my caution is, if you are in this situation where you're sort of dating somebody, is how well do you know this person, especially if this person asks you for money, especially if it's a situation where you have to dole out some money. Where do you find that right balance for you? Where do you feel comfortable? For some of you also, I'm going to say as well, those of you who have teens, okay, I'm going to be honest with you as well. There may be a request for finances that might not be completely honest. This is something that kids do. The best of kids, the most amazing and ethical and grounded and spiritual kids sometimes will want something. They know that you might not want that for them. So they might find a different way to express what it is that they want so that ultimately you'll finance what it is that they believe that they want. So be open to that as well. But all in all, it does look like whether it's a dating situation, whether it's a situation with a child or a kid, if any question or concerns or requests in particular come up around finances, you want to be sure that you are feeling comfortable about what you are offering and the moment that, or what is being asked of you and what you are giving in return. So the moment it starts to feel, your intuition says, oh, something's off here, something's not right. The moment you start to feel that, is this really about me, or is this about, the financial, request or needs that this person has? If any of that stuff starts coming up for you, take it as an alarm bell. This is the week that you want to pay attention to that. Again, I don't think the situation is likely to come up for too many of you, but for those of you, and if you are in one of those situations where you've been seeing somebody and have felt that, at least from a financial perspective, things haven't been so balanced, this week you are really going to be very inspired to talk that out and to figure things out so that you can move forward from a place where you feel like things are a little bit more on equal footing. Hello, fabulous Capricorn. Such an important week for you, without a doubt. I mean, let me just put it out there. It's such an important week for you. You've got Mars and Pluto meeting in your sign. You've got Mars speaking with Uranus, Mars moving through your sign speaking with Uranus. And then you've got the Sun and Venus meeting your ruling planet. All this together does suggest major self-honesty and major turning points for you. This is not a week when you're going to get away with too much in terms of not being absolutely honest with yourself or being absolutely clear with yourself. This is a week when the universe is going to say to you, look at where you are. If you like it, awesome, make it stronger. But if there's anything that you don't like, this is a time for you to be very clear with yourself and with the universe as to what you are done with, what has served its purpose for you. given that we recently had this Mercury retrograde, and this week Mercury is also going to leave shadow, I do think that there's an element for a few of you out there. For some of you out there, you might have had somebody re-enter your life recently, particularly in the realm of friendship. Someone might have re-entered your life. This is a time for you to say, okay, why did you have to create space from this person in the first place? Things that take place now are going to make it very clear to you, like, oh, okay, now I remember why I decided to stop returning this person's phone calls. Now I remember why I sort of let this friendship slide, why I really didn't feel very motivated to continue contact with this person. And that ultimately is really good, because this is about helping you to get clear as to who it is that you want in your life, who it is that you want around you, who it is that you believe is part of moving your life in a positive direction. So there's a level of self-honesty here, but there's also a level here of some very deep and personal changes taking place for you, where I literally see a lot of those of your sign out there saying, no, thank you. I'm not going there anymore, and really walking in a whole other path. So for those of you born, especially those of you born right around the middle of your sign, this is going to play out to be a really important week for you. A week where you really start to find and you really start to connect to something within you that knows that you are now ready for a whole other direction, that knows that whether it's people, whether it's situations, that really knows what has served its purpose. And so stay calm. I got to advise that, because for some of you out there, it might be a very impulsive energy. Ultimately, if you can come from a place of calm and truth within you, the changes you make are only going to lead you to feel much more stronger, much more clearer, and with a much clearer understanding of who you are today and what direction it is that you most desire to go. It is ultimately about who you are, reaches right to the level of identity. That's what's changing for you now, and the way you understand yourself, what you're capable of, and what really matters to you is about to go through a very important moment of metamorphosis. Hello, fabulous Aquarius. This week we have Mars speaking with your ruling planet in a conversation of tension. And then we also have the Sun and Venus meeting your ancient ruling planet as well. So you put this together, it's a really important week for you. Of all the signs as to who's going to be impulsive to the point where it just even surprises you, it's you. And you may find yourself sort of being provoked, having buttons pushed in ways that might not necessarily feel good. However, they are about getting the truth out. And if there's anything that you've been holding back, that you've been sort of suppressing, that you've been like, no, it's okay, let it slide, but it's really been bugging you, it's really been bothering you, this is a time when it all comes out in the open, at least for you. And it comes out in the open through conversation. So what you want to do is you want to be mindful, okay? Because if you find yourself in any kind of dynamic, and understand it is a dynamic, it requires your participation, because ultimately another person can do or say or whatever. But if you are there with them, and if you are being affected by it, you are in some way participating in it. And that becomes the deeper, more meaningful question. Why and how are you in a situation that you are participating in that maybe doesn't feel so good, that maybe you're ready to transform? So this is a chance for you to be really honest with yourself, Aquarius. This is a chance for you to get clear as to how it is that you are where you are, where it is it can be a little bit more ideal, and where it is that you would like to feel that you're living a little bit more true to a deeper voice within you. And don't discount your dreams at this time. I literally think that there are going to be some Aquarians out there who wake up from a dream all of a sudden and realize what it is that they've been pushing down, what it is that they've been suppressing, what it is that they haven't wanted to give voice to, where it is that they haven't wanted to rock the boat, mainly because as a result of the dream, a lot of strong emotions come right to the surface. And this is likely not to be a dream that requires too much deciphering either. It's going to be very clear as a result of the emotions you hold as to what it is that you've been sort of holding back and where it is now that you're ready to release any sort of feelings or any sort of blaming that maybe is getting in the way of you truly feeling a sense of empowerment and of you truly feeling a sense that you know who you are and you're moving in the direction of the things that matter to you most. Hello, fabulous Pisces. This week we have your ruling planet in your sign receiving a very, very sweet conversation with Mercury. Now, this happens just as Mercury leaves shadow as well, Mercury being the ruling planet of your opposite sign. So you put this together and it does suggest, just like your opposite sign, just getting a lot of support from key people in your life, partners in your life as well, romantic, business, or otherwise, spending one-on-one time that restores faith. So while a lot of people out there are going to be really having a lot of intensity as a result of the intense cosmic climate, as a result of a lot of the adventures that are taking place this month, where it comes to the cosmos, lots of sort of make or break moments for a lot of us, and this may include you as well. However, it seems that you are at your best when you're plugged into source and see the higher purpose and sort of the higher script being played out. And this week, the universe is going to help you with that much more, to help you see things from a more elevated place, and to help you see how ultimately everything is moving in a very positive direction for you. And I really believe that to be so. It may be interactions with a friend that end up bringing about some really intense emotions as well for you. And so if that should arise, allow that to come up, because ultimately that is about you being led to then having one-on-one conversations that restore a sense of faith and a sense of balance as well. One thing, though, I do want to say, given the way that the planets are playing out, if a friend asks you for money, this is not the week to lend it to them, okay? And also, if a friend, there's also an element here that if a friend owes you money already, this might be a good week for you to say to yourself, you know what, I don't want this to get in the way of our friendship anymore, so I'm going to just let that go. And to forgive that, whatever it might be, whether it's a financial debt or otherwise. If you feel that you are owed something, if that you gave something financially that has yet to be returned to you, especially in the context of friendship, this is a time for you to decide whether the friendship is worth it or not, and to not allow that money to get in the way of the friendship. But it may be that the money is just a symbol of what the true nature of that friendship is, and that'll allow you to reach a certain turning point and a certain growth moment for you as well. All in all, though, this week there is a touch of inspiration. As much as there's some intense energies out there, there's also inspiration, and you are the most immediate beneficiary of this inspiration. Whatever's happening in your world, talk it out. Talk it out with other people, talk it out with friends, talk it out with people who matter to you. And through that process of talking things out, you are going to find yourself really connecting to something much deeper within you, connecting to a clarity that can only come from some higher truth and your understanding of some higher truth as well. Well, thank you so much to all signs out there. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.